Well, what is going on YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. Today on the table in front of us, we have something I have reviewed before, sort of. This is a Strider SNG. I had one before in 3V, and I didn't really love it. Now, the design is excellent. Strider made himself a great knife many, many years ago, and that has not changed. But I just couldn't fall in love with the SNG, but along the way I picked up the SMF. Now this happens to be in 20CV. It's the FWP version, as you can see. I've had this now for quite a while, and in the time that I've had it, I have come to really, really appreciate the design. So, when I got the opportunity to get a hold of an SNG again, I thought, well, let's look around for something that really interests me. And so a while back, Metal Complex did a review of an SMF in a steel I had never heard of. And that is PSF27, which is what this is in. Now, PSF27 is a modified version of D2, right? That is a really expensive knife for D2. So I went online and I went to some maker forums and I explored around, and turns out that PSF27 is really, really good steel for a hard use knife. Now this is the Gunner Grip Tanto Tiger Stripe edition of the Strider. This one is a few years old, and I love this knife. Now it still has the original clip on it. I have ordered a matching deep carry clip like this one. Should arrive in a few days. Striders are funny tools. If you can get one when they first release, they're about $500. On the secondary market, they are considerably more than that, ranging in price depending on the grind and various other stuff, from $700 and up. And I still wrestle with that. I really do. But having had the big one for a while and really enjoying it, I thought, well, let's get the smaller one. Let's get the SNG and see how that goes. And I've had this for about a week now, and it keeps finding its way into my pocket. And I really love this Tanto grind. I love the drop, right? I love the aggressive Tanto. I love that it's hollow ground. Its big brother here is a high flat grind. The Tanto here is a hollow grind, and with the exception of the tip where you can see that swells out a lot. That is a very aggressive blade. This is a fantastic pocket knife. Now, this is back into that category of the Hinderers and some of the other really expensive knives I own. People are like, well, do you recommend them? You know, yeah. I mean, if you're willing to spend the money to get one, and it's what you really want, kind of nothing else will do. This is very, very comfortable. So we're going to call this a $700 knife, which is crazy pants, but for the sake of the review and for the sake of going forward, we're going to go ahead and put away the SMF. This is never leaving my collection. I love this thing. Let's go ahead and say that let's see what you get for your $700. Well, as I mentioned, Strider, the knives, at least at this point, tend to be made on whatever steel they seem to be able to get their hands on. 3V, CPM 20CV. This one is in Super D2. Now, I don't know what it's like in their shop, but I can tell you that in the time I've had this, I've cut everything that I cut all my stuff with, and this really holds up. It's not a thin edge, but somebody has put a high polish edge on it at some point, and it really cuts, which is very nice. And again, it is a silly, comfortable knife. The design for Striders, well, look, either works for you or it doesn't. And it turns out that having had the big one for a while, this is a design that just works for me. So let's do some size comparisons while we've got it on the table, and then we'll do the basic measurements. So here it is against one of my favorite large knives, the full-size Presidio 2 from Benchmade. As you can see, the SNG is smaller and you get a lot less cutting surface. Keep in mind you could buy about 3 of these or more for the price of one of these, but you just don't quite get that Strider thing. Whatever that is. It took me a while to get there, but I'm there now, and I really like whatever it is. I really do. Here it is against the Mini Presidio 2, which is a good stand-in for the bug out. And as you can see, the Strider is, well, let's do this. Strider SNG here is just in between the two. It is a good mid-size, larger knife. Something about that Strider grip is very comfortable to work with. Here it is against a 940, in this case the 943. They are similar, of course, in size, but again, you get a lot more cutting edge on the 943. Knives like, excuse me, wow. Knives like this are not for everybody. They weren't for me originally. But with time and experience and an alternative that really just worked for me right from the get-go, I found myself thinking more and more about getting, like I said, the SNG here, and I'm glad that I did. So what do you get? Well, as I said, you get PSF27 Super D2. You get 2 3/4 inches of cutting on, if you come all the way back here, we are looking at 3 3/4 inches overall of blade. The grip area is, as always with Striders, amazing. From the rear of this forward choil, you get 1, 2, 3 3/4, which is just perfect for my hand. My hand overhangs that just a little bit. But from the forward choil, you get 1, 2, 3, 4 3/4. It's 5 to the tail. The knife itself is 8 inches and 1/8 overall, almost 8 1/4 overall. Closed profile on this thing. It eats up some pocket. We're looking at 1.5 inches at the widest, and we are looking at 1, 2, 3, 4.5 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.5 inches overall in closed length. My goodness, watch me go. I really like the shape. I really do. You know, the gunner grip here gives you lots of traction on the show side. They're excellent. Flame anno on the titanium side looks great. I'm not a fan of the stock clips, but you guys know that, and I'm going to replace it. But even saying that, this clip doesn't wiggle or rock, doesn't go anywhere, and it is very, very stable. Deployment is, as with all Striders, by the deployment hole, and you can pinch and roll it out very smoothly, or, of course, you can just flick it out, which I like quite a bit. This tail end has got a little bit of jimping, in case you're going to hold it this way, and of course there's a little jimping along the back of the blade and right here, which is a great spot for your thumb delay, particularly for push cuts. The shape of this blade with the drop right here means, and with this Tanto edge, it's great. If you're cutting stuff this way along a board, it works really, really well. And of course, this is hyper-aggressive Tanto tip. In case you need to cut something that way, it works very well. You can, every once in a while, get yourself a ProTech Auto SNG, which is a great way to get into this particular size and shape without spending $700. Again, you can get them for less than that if you're available when they drop and happen to be standing right there. You might get one for $5.50. But that's not likely to happen for most of us. Now, I didn't spend $700 on this knife. I had a very expensive custom that I traded for this and something else that I'll be reviewing down the road. The Tour Knives Merchant, which is also a very excellent Tanto. So I did a trade for these just because the knife that I had didn't really interest me anymore, and these two did. So keep your eyes open for a Tour Knives review coming out soon. Collecting knives is a funny business. My comfort zone, you know, legitimately is stuff like this. Stuff that if I'm carrying it and I drop it, screw it up, I can get another one. It's not a big deal. And yet I am drawn to periodically something that is outside that comfort zone. And this Strider, well, that's outside the comfort zone, but definitely inside my interest zone. See, he's got his logo right there on the blade. PSF27 steel, made in the USA. Somewhere out there, Metal Complex is saying, yeah, made in the USA. I know. I do like made in the USA knives. I don't only like them, but I do enjoy them when I get a hold of them. Now, this one has had some wear. As you can see right here at the tip of the blade, there's a little bit of scuffing, and on this side, there's some scratches. Doesn't matter. This is a working knife. And I actually like the fact that it's got some wear on it, because then I'm not quite so worried about carrying such an expensive tool. But that's just me. Your experience may differ. In the end, Mick Strider designed, many years ago now, what I think of as a really, really excellent design. Now, do I wish that it had changed a little? Yeah, I'd love a lock bar insert. I mean, come on. And I'd love a more standardized pivot. But beyond that, if you build something that works, you don't really have to mess with it too much. And Strider knives are one of those things. It is just a design that works. Now I have two. And I guess that's where we're going to end it. If you like Strider knives, get yourself one, because nothing else will really do. If you're not sure, and you have the opportunity, get your hands on one and play with it. Now, the nice thing about these is if you do invest, and it is an investment, if you don't like it, you can sell it for what you paid for it without problem. I mean, unless you paid way too much, but you know, the market is pretty stable. If you poke around, you'll see what these things are going for. If you find yourself drawn to the design, and you can, you should get one. If only so that you'll know for sure down the road if it's something you like or not. I had an SNG and I didn't like it. I guess it was the size. I liked much bigger knives at that point in my collection. Something that has changed sort of recently. And so the SMF here met all of my needs in a really spectacular way. But as I have moved forward and my collection has changed, my interests have moved to smaller stuff. I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Quiet Carry Drift here now. This is way too small for me even just 6 months ago. But now, I'm really enjoying it. So smaller knives kind of have my attention. Let's go ahead and weigh this out before we go. And then I'll let you go. So the Strider is not a lightweight by any stretch of the imagination. It comes in at 5.5 ounces, which is not bad for an 8¼ inch knife. And the PSF27 PSF27, my goodness. You get almost 5 millimeters of that stuff, which is impressive. Look at that. 198 thousandths. This is a thick slice of steel. That's part of the draw, though, isn't it? This sort of durable, overbuilt, hard use mentality that goes into this thing. This is one of those knives where, I mean, it's running on washers. It's built like, you know, it's got basically a bicycle chain link piece holding the pivot in place. This really is one of those tools where you feel like you could bury it in the mud, pick it out and carry it and just keep using it. Now, again, I very much wish that it had, maybe I do wish that this one was CPM20CV, something instead of a like Super D2, but I think the fact that this is tool steel lends itself into the whole idea that this is just a hard-working tool. And I think I like that. Anyway, this has been the Strider SNG Gunner Grip Tanto. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this or the SMF or any of my knives, feel free to ask down in the comments below. We'll see you next time.